Hello again. So this video is going to be to give you some add-on for the Bustier technique. So let's start with the boning. There's a lot of different boning you could find on the market, and they're all going to be sewn differently. Today I pick one style that we'll use. It's the easiest one to sew on. You don't need to do a little envelope like this one here that you could buy already with envelope that you have to sew on both sides, but there's so many techniques. I had to pick one, so I'll use the plastic one made with a lot of little wire of plastic. So I suggest you apply boning on the back to hold your back straight. So we'll put it there, and when you take the measurement, you always make it 3 to 5 millimeter inside the seam allowance, so shorter than the actual bustier, so you're not going to be bothered when you do your finishing and your sewing. So you cut it, and then so you cut it like that, and you could see the little plastic coming out. So just to make sure that it doesn't move, you see the boning, the little plastic wire. So just to make sure it doesn't move and it doesn't fringe also, I suggest you burn it a little, and you take tiny little piece of fabric, stiff fabric like cotton, and cover it. So cover it like that and like that. Thin cotton is good, and you stitch it on. So that's what you'll get, just to stop it and make sure it's not going to damage your fabric. Then we'll go sew it. So I'm going to put one here in the center back. This is for more casual bustier, just to make sure your back remains straight. If you're doing like more real bustier, not underwear but the real technique of bustier, you could put a second one on the side. So maybe over here, again this one is not long enough, but you could put one there, and you apply it in the inside of your lining. We're going to stitch both sides and make sure it's curving up like that. So wrong side of the lining, your boning is curving up like that. So we'll go stitch it on the center back. We curve it like that because you want, when the lining is facing the body, the boning to follow the shape of the body. The next add-on is going to be the cord piping that I really like, especially for the front princess line, because it helps to keep the shape of the bust. So you could buy the cord piping already done, but if you wanted to match your fabric, you could cut your bias in the same fabric or different color. Mine is cut 3.5 centimeter wide, but it could be narrower if you want to. So you're gonna need some cord or shoelace and the special foot for cord piping according to the size of your cord. So we'll start by doing the cord piping. We'll place it in the middle and stitch it on. Then we'll pick the straighter line of the princess line, so this one, and we're going to sew it on. So you saw me checking from the under of the bias to make sure that my seam would be at 1 centimeter from my fabric, but the bias was wider, so it's coming out a bit. That you should trim it after. And then after you finish trimming, we're going to go assemble again with the same foot. We're going to assemble the second piece of the bustier. So before assembling the self with the cord piping, you should pull out the cord, just the cord, and cut about 1.5 centimeter. Pull back your fabric to make sure that in your next seam allowance, the other direction, you don't have to sew over the cord. So the next add-on is going to be to secure the top part of the bustier so it doesn't stretch with some twill tape or tailor tape, very tiny. It's about 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter wide. It could be cotton or synthetic, and we'll add that to the top part of the bustier. We will start by sewing the top part of the bustier, and then we'll put the tape right after. So as you could see, I put the tape right next to the original seam, and while sewing the tape, I pull a little bit on the tape, so it's going to close a little bit the top part of the bustier without showing from the outside. So you pull all the way except on the center front panel, but from center back to the princess line seam, you pull a bit. What it looks like. In fact, nothing shows. And at this point, you could do your understitch on the lining as usual. The first thing we will do is adjust the zipper to fit the bustier. Mine is way too long. So what you should do is place the end of the zipper about 3 millimeter from the seam line, and then you go all the way to the top. You could mark again 3 millimeter inside from the seam line, and from that point you mark 2 cm higher. So then you're going to make sure that you unzip and that your carrier is below your mark, so you'll be able to cut at the 2 centimeter longer. Okay, so now I did remove the spiral of the plastic zipper, because this part is going to go into the seam allowance and you cannot sew over. This is a wide one, so it cannot be sewn. After you remove 2 centimeter on your tape, you're going to put the stopper that you could buy separately or reuse the one that you had on the original zipper. So it's just like a little U shape that you put over right next to the last part the last part of the spiral, and you're gonna go with the plier and squeeze it. You could put only one side, it should stop your zipper anyway, but if you want to make it nicer to look at, you put both sides. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for watching, and I see you next time.